My boss fired me unfairly. 1 year later, he begged for my help. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I used to believe that the worst day of my life would come out of nowhere, maybe a car accident or a sudden diagnosis. Turns out, it came on a Friday morning, in a glass-walled office I once thought I'd worked my way up to deserve. My boss, Mr. Carson, barely looked up as I walked in. His fingers drummed on a pink slip like it was a bad joke he'd already told himself a dozen times. "Sit down, Mark," he said, voice flat. "We're letting you go. Effective immediately." There was no warning, no write-up, just a dull ache behind my eyes and a feeling of free fall as the world tipped sideways. I stared at him, searching his face for some sign this was a test. But his eyes were cold, almost relieved. "Why?" My voice broke. "My numbers. It's not about your performance. We're restructuring." He couldn't even fake sympathy. The next hour blurred. Security guard at my elbow, co-workers' eyes darting away, my name badge surrendered like a war trophy. Shame burned through me as I packed my things into a cardboard box. Memories of late nights and missed birthdays piling up with my half-dead office plant. I spent the weekend numb, lying to my wife, telling her it was a layoff, nothing personal. I didn't tell her about the rumors I'd heard the week before, or how Carson had started shutting me out of meetings, how Sheila from HR stopped smiling at me. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the conversation. I wondered if I'd missed the signs, the abrupt change in Carson's tone, the new hire who sat in on my last big client call, the email accidentally sent to the wrong team. Was I set up? Fast forward 1 year, just as I finally started piecing my life together, scraping my dignity back one freelance job at a time, Carson showed up at my door. Eyes bloodshot, suit wrinkled, desperation leaking from every pore. He didn't even knock. "Mark, I need your help. Please, I have no one else." And right then, I realized the tables had turned. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize him. The Carson I remembered was always put together, hair perfectly combed, suit crisp, that smug little smile suggesting he was always one step ahead. The man in front of me now looked like he'd aged a decade in a year. I almost felt pity. Almost. He hovered on my doorstep, wringing his hands, glancing over his shoulder like someone might be watching. My first instinct was to slam the door in his face. But curiosity, and maybe a craving for closure, kept me rooted. "What do you want, Carson?" My voice was sharper than I intended. He tried to compose himself, smoothing his tie. "Mark, I know I have no right to ask, but I need your expertise. The company, it's in trouble. Serious trouble. You're the only one who can help." I let out a bitter laugh. "Funny. A year ago, you said I was replaceable. Guess that didn't work out." He winced, as if the memory stung as much as it did for me. "It was a mistake. I made a mistake, all right. But if you don't help, the whole place goes under. People's jobs, families, it's all on the line." There was a part of me, deep down, that wanted to gloat, to tell him exactly where he could shove his apology. But there was something off in his voice, a raw panic I'd never heard before. Something bigger than just office politics. I glanced over his shoulder and spotted a car idling across the street, windows tinted. Instinctively, a chill ran down my spine. "What kind of trouble?" I asked, trying to mask my own nerves. Carson swallowed. "It's not just the company. It's..." His voice faltered. "Look, can we talk inside? Please. I'll tell you everything. But not out here." Against my better judgment, I opened the door. As he stepped in, the air shifted. Old ghosts stirred. I had a feeling this wasn't just about business, and that whatever secret he carried could destroy us both. Carson paced my living room, hands trembling so badly he nearly knocked over the lamp. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. I stood by the window, watching that black sedan outside. I couldn't shake the sense that letting him in was a mistake, but curiosity had my heart in a chokehold. "Start talking," I said. "If you're in trouble, I need the truth. All of it." He nodded, swallowing hard. "It started a few months after you left. The new guy, Ethan, he was brilliant at first. Numbers soared, clients loved him. But then weird things started happening. Files went missing, deals fell through, money vanished. I thought it was just the usual business turbulence. But then one of our biggest clients threatened to sue for breach of contract." I raised an eyebrow. "And you're telling me this why? Hire a lawyer. You have dozens." Carson ran a shaking hand through his hair. Ethan set me up, Mark. He forged emails in my name. Made it look like I siphoned off funds. HR's investigating me for embezzlement. I'm facing prison, unless I can prove what really happened. For a moment, I almost laughed. Poetic justice, right? The same man who tossed me out without warning was now facing ruin at the hands of someone he'd hired to replace me. Why should I help you? I asked, keeping my voice cold. After what you did. He stared at the floor. I was wrong. I let paranoia get the best of me. You were loyal, and I destroyed your life. Now I'm begging you. I don't have anyone left. Everyone turned their back when the money went missing, except you. You were always honest, Mark. Please. Outside, the car engine rumbled, and I caught the shadow of a figure watching us. Suddenly, this felt bigger than a corporate scandal. I had to choose, walk away, or dive back into the mess that nearly broke me. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number, a single message. He's lying to you. Don't trust him. The message chilled me to the bone. I glanced at Carson, who now sat hunched on my couch, rubbing his temples like he could squeeze the panic out. My gut twisted. Was I really about to throw myself back into the chaos for a man who threw me to the wolves? I held up my phone. Who else knows you're here, Carson? He looked up, startled. No one. I swear. I was careful. Because someone just warned me not to trust you. I shot back, voice low. He paled. That's impossible. I've been off the grid, burner phone, cash only. Mark, you have to believe me. I didn't answer. I went to the window. The car was gone. Just an empty street and rain-slicked pavement. My head spun. What if Carson was still hiding something? What if I was the next scapegoat in his tangled mess? He stood abruptly. If you want me to leave, say it. I get it. After what I did. Hell, I wouldn't trust me either. But you know how the company works. You know the systems better than anyone. If you help me, you could save everyone else from getting burned. His words almost sounded noble, but desperation leaked through every syllable. I remembered those final weeks at the office, how quickly people turned cold, the rumors, the fake smiles. Back then, I would have done anything to clear my name. Now, Carson was offering me a shot at something more than revenge, redemption, but I couldn't shake the warning on my phone. I took a deep breath. Fine, I'll help, but on my terms. Full transparency. And if I find out you're lying to me, I walk. No second chances. Carson nodded, relief flooding his face. Deal. Anything you want. He slid a USB drive across the table. Start here. It's everything I have. Emails, financials, contracts. If anyone can find the truth, it's you. I pocketed the drive, ignoring the tremor in my hands. Somewhere, out there, someone was watching, and I was stepping into a game I didn't know the rules of. That night, after Carson left, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the USB drive like it was a ticking bomb. My wife watched me from the hallway, worry etched on her face. Is it really a good idea to get involved with him again? She asked gently. I shook my head. Maybe not. But if he's telling the truth, people could get hurt. And if he's lying, I want to know why. She nodded, understanding more than I could say. I waited until she went to bed, then booted up my old laptop, the one I hadn't used since my last freelance contract ended. The screen flickered, cold blue light painting the walls, and I plugged in the drive. Files spilled out, spreadsheets, emails, phone logs, scanned contracts. My heart raced. I opened the most recent folder, labeled Ethan_confidential. Inside were dozens of emails from Ethan to Carson, discussing wire transfers and client pitches. At first glance, they looked legit. But one caught my eye, an approval for a massive payment, timestamped the same day I was fired. I cross-referenced the data. The numbers didn't add up. Someone had doctored the ledger entries. It looked professional, but there were small mistakes, a decimal out of place, a client name spelled wrong. Whoever did this knew what they were doing, but they weren't perfect. Suddenly, an old office memory flashed in my mind. The day before I was fired, I'd left a report on Carson's desk. I'd seen Ethan hovering near my computer, claiming he needed a password reset. At the time, I'd shrugged it off. Now it felt sinister. My pulse quickened. Was I collateral damage in a bigger scheme? Had Ethan framed both Carson and me? Before I could dig deeper, my screen blinked. An incoming message from an unknown address. Stop investigating, Mark. Walk away, or you'll regret it. I froze. Someone was watching my every move. My hands shook as I stared at the threat. It wasn't paranoia now, Someone knew exactly what I was doing, and they wanted me out of the picture. I tried to steady my breathing, but the feeling of being watched clung to me like a second skin. I quickly snapped a photo of the message, then yanked the USB from my laptop and powered everything down. Paranoia warred with anger. Why was I risking so much for Carson after everything he'd done to me? But I already knew the answer, because for once, I wasn't the victim. I had a chance to take control. I tried calling Carson, but his phone went straight to voicemail. The pit in my stomach grew. I needed answers, now. Before leaving, I slipped the USB into my pocket and wrote a note for my wife, just in case. If I'm not back by midnight, call the police. Don't trust anyone from my old job. The night air was thick with tension as I drove through empty streets to Carson's apartment. The building looked deserted, just one flickering light in his window. When he answered the door, he looked even worse. Eyes wild, breath shallow. "You got the message, didn't you?" he whispered. I nodded. "Who's threatening us, Carson?" He rubbed his face. "It's Ethan, or someone working with him." After I started questioning the accounts, strange things started happening. Tires slashed, emails hacked. Even my wife got a call telling her to leave town. "No one in the company is clean, Mark. You were right to suspect something before." His words only confirmed my worst fears. This wasn't just a business dispute. It was a web of corruption, and we were tangled right in the middle. A sudden crash echoed from the hallway. Carson's face drained of color. "They found us," he gasped. Before I could react, the door burst open, and we were no longer alone. 3 men stormed into Carson's apartment. Black hoodies, hard faces, the kind of guys who don't bother hiding their intentions. One held a crowbar, another a phone. The third kept his hands in his pockets, but his eyes never left mine. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then the tallest one jerked his chin at Carson. "You were told to drop this, old man. And you," he turned to me, his gaze ice cold, "should have stayed gone." I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Carson shrank behind me, hands raised. "Please, just let us talk." The man with the phone snapped a photo of us, smirking. "You two like playing detective? Fine. Next time, it won't just be a warning." I wanted to ask who sent them, but I already knew. Ethan, or whoever was pulling his strings. The message was crystal clear. "Back off, or someone gets hurt." "Get out," I said, mustering every ounce of steel in my voice. "We're calling the cops." Crowbar guy laughed, but the leader held up a finger, silencing him. "You're outnumbered, Mark. But go ahead, call whoever you want. We'll be watching." They left as quickly as they'd come, slamming the door behind them. Carson collapsed onto the couch, shaking. I checked the locks, heart hammering. For a long moment, the only sound was both of us trying to breathe. Finally, I spoke. "They're scared. That means we're close to something big enough to risk sending muscle." Carson nodded, face ashen. "What now?" I looked down at the USB drive in my hand. "Now we dig deeper. No more running." But somewhere, deep inside, I wondered if either of us would survive what we were about to uncover. After the men left, neither of us slept. Every sound from the hallway made us flinch. I set up my old laptop again, this time taking every precaution: VPN, encrypted drives, even taping over the camera. If they were watching, they'd have to work for it. Carson hovered nervously as I sifted through more files. I focused on the wire transfers and the doctored contracts, tracing digital breadcrumbs. Suddenly, I found something. A folder hidden inside another, password protected and cleverly disguised as archived invoices. It took me nearly an hour, but I cracked it. Inside, emails between Ethan and a mysterious K, discussing shell companies, offshore accounts, and names I recognized. Names of my former coworkers. It wasn't just embezzlement. It was a network. Ethan was laundering money, and the company was the perfect cover. My head spun. I turned to Carson, whose face went slack as he read the messages over my shoulder. "You see this?" I whispered. "Your golden boy wasn't just stealing. He was building a criminal empire." Carson rubbed his face. "If this goes public, we're all ruined." "That's the least of your worries," I said. "Ethan's got leverage on everyone. No wonder he sent those guys." Suddenly, my phone vibrated again. Another unknown number. This time, it was a video, grainy security cam footage of my wife at the grocery store. Alone. Vulnerable. My heart dropped. A new message followed. "Back off, Mark. Last warning." I stared at the screen, rage and fear battling inside me. They knew exactly how to hurt me. But instead of backing down, I felt something ignite, a determination sharper than fear. I turned to Carson. They want a war? Fine. But I'm not fighting for you anymore. I'm fighting for my family. The line between justice and revenge was about to vanish. The threat against my wife pushed me past any point of caution. I called her immediately, voice trembling, and told her to stay with a friend for a few days. I tried not to sound panicked, but she heard it anyway. Just promise me you'll be careful, she whispered before hanging up. My hands shook as I put down the phone. Carson paced the apartment like a caged animal. We need to go to the police, he muttered. I shook my head. And tell them what? That we're being threatened by your star employee who's running a criminal network? Without hard proof, we're just two guys with a grudge and a wild story. Besides, Ethan probably has eyes everywhere, maybe even in law enforcement. He flinched, but I could see he knew I was right. There was only one move left: go directly to Ethan. Get him to slip, or at least show his cards. It was reckless, maybe even suicidal, but I was done waiting for another attack. If Ethan wanted to intimidate me, he'd have to do it to my face. I found Ethan's address buried in the HR files, a flashy condo across town. The elevator ride up felt like marching toward my own execution. I barely noticed Carson at my side, his fear palpable. We reached Ethan's door. I pounded hard, letting anger be my shield. The door opened a crack. Ethan's smile was all teeth and venom. Well, look who couldn't stay away. Missed the office already, Mark? I shoved the USB into his chest. We know everything, Ethan. You're finished. He laughed, a low, menacing sound. You don't know a damn thing. You're playing in a league way above your head. Then he leaned closer, voice dropping. Walk away, Mark. Last chance. For your sake, and hers. My blood ran cold, but I didn't move. Not this time. Ethan stepped aside, gesturing us in with mock hospitality. Come on, you've come this far. Let's talk like professionals. The condo was as slick as his smile. Glass walls, expensive art, the faint smell of cologne, and something burned. Carson hesitated at the threshold, but I walked in, keeping my eyes on Ethan. He closed the door behind us, the click loud as a gunshot. He poured himself a drink, smirking. You want to play hero, Mark? Or are you here for a payoff? He slid a fat envelope across the counter. Take it. Forget everything you think you found. I didn't touch the money. I want the threats to stop. You stay away from my family, or I'll go public with everything. I held up my phone, the screen showing the incriminating files. This isn't just about Carson anymore. Ethan took a sip, unbothered. You really think the cops can help you? Half the city's payroll runs through me, one way or another. He turned to Carson, sneering. You're lucky I let you keep your house, old man. All you had to do was keep quiet. Carson looked like he might be sick. I'm done covering for you. I should have listened to Mark from the start. Ethan's expression darkened. You two never learn. Loyalty means survival in this world. He stepped closer, voice barely a whisper. If you push me, you'll regret it. Something in his tone sent a chill down my spine, but I forced myself to stand tall. We're not afraid of you, Ethan. Not anymore. His smile returned, sharper than ever. We'll see about that. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. A new message. It was a photo, my wife, leaving her friend's apartment. Another warning. My anger boiled over. This ends now, Ethan. Or I swear, you'll lose everything. His only answer was laughter that echoed off the condo's empty walls. Ethan's laughter lingered in the air long after we left his condo, bitter and mocking. Outside, the city lights blurred through the windshield as Carson and I drove in silence, each of us trapped in our own storm. The stakes had become painfully clear. Ethan wouldn't back down, and neither could I, not with my family in danger. That night, I barely slept. Every noise sounded like footsteps outside. My phone buzzed again, block number, no message. Just static, as if to remind me I was being watched. The fear was suffocating, but something else burned hotter beneath it. Rage. I was done being the hunted. By morning, I had a plan. If Ethan had built a network, someone had to know something. Someone who wasn't just scared or paid off. I called every old coworker I could trust. Most hung up immediately, terrified. But then Lisa, our former accounts manager, answered, her voice shaky. Mark, you shouldn't be calling me. They're listening. Please, Lisa, I begged. Ethan's threatening my wife. I need your help. You were always honest. If you know anything, now's the time. A long silence, then a whisper. Meet me tonight, at the old cafe near the river. I have proof, but come alone. As the day crawled by, my anxiety spiked. Carson offered to come, but I shook my head. If Ethan's watching, he can't see us together. I'll handle this. Dusk fell heavy as I approached the cafe. Lisa was waiting at a corner table, hood pulled low. She slid a flash drive across to me, her eyes darting nervously. Everything's on here. Transfers, voice memos, names. Enough to bury Ethan. Suddenly, the door slammed open. Two men in dark suits stormed in, scanning the room. Ethan's guys. Lisa's hand found mine under the table. Run, she whispered, voice trembling. Adrenaline hit me like a freight train. Without thinking, I grabbed Lisa's hand and bolted for the back exit. Shouts erupted behind us, the men in suits shoving chairs aside, their heavy footsteps thundering over the tile. The alley behind the cafe was slick with rain, puddles reflecting the neon buzz of the city. I yanked Lisa behind a dumpster just as the back door burst open. Split up, one of the men barked. We crouched, holding our breath. My heart hammered so loud I was sure they'd hear it. Lisa clutched the flash drive like it was her lifeline. I squeezed her hand, both of us trembling. One of the men moved past us, so close I could smell his cologne. The other scanned the shadows, flashlight beam slicing through the dark. We waited, frozen, until they turned the corner and vanished. Lisa exhaled shakily. I'm sorry, Mark. I never should have gotten involved. Hey, none of this is your fault, I whispered, pulling her up. You did the right thing. We hurried through winding back streets, finally emerging blocks away from the cafe. I called Carson. I've got it, the proof. But they know we're onto them. Get somewhere safe. I'll meet you soon. Lisa handed me the flash drive, her fingers icy. There are recordings. Ethan talking about everything. Bribes, the threats, the money laundering. It's enough to put him away for life. I nodded, mind racing. Thank you, Lisa. I owe you. She shook her head. Just make sure it's over. For all of us. But as I tucked the flash drive away, a text lit up my phone. Last chance, Mark. Walk away or watch everything you love burn. I looked at Lisa, then at the night around us. There was no going back now. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready for war. I spent the next hour dodging shadows, checking over my shoulder with every step, Lisa's warning echoing in my head. When I finally reached my car, I called Carson. Meet me at the old print shop on 8th. Bring nothing that can be tracked. He sounded exhausted, but agreed. I hid the flash drive deep in my coat and drove, my nerves strung tight as wire. The city felt different, hostile, like every streetlight was an eye, every alley a threat. When I pulled up, Carson was already there, pacing in the glow of a flickering sign. Inside, dust danced in the shafts of moonlight. I fired up my laptop, locked every door, and plugged in Lisa's flash drive. Carson hovered close, hands clenched. Recordings played out in Ethan's unmistakable voice. Yeah, grease the city council. If anyone asks, tell them it's just a bonus. If Mark comes sniffing around, remind him what's at stake. The old man's got nothing, he'll fold. My blood boiled. Here was everything. Emails, bank transfers, hidden audio files, even a backup of company chats detailing threats to witnesses, including my wife's name. Carson's face went ashen as he listened. We have to go public. Police, media, everyone. I hesitated. It's not just Ethan. Look at this. There are judges, politicians, company brass. If we go straight to the cops, someone could bury this before it ever sees daylight. We need to blow it wide open. All at once. He nodded grimly. You're right. But they'll come after us. My phone buzzed again, this time a live video feed. My wife, tied to a chair, fear etched on her face. Ethan's voice. Hand over the evidence, Mark. Or she pays the price. Carson's jaw clenched. What do we do? I stared at the screen, rage and terror warring in my chest. We save her. And then we end this. Once and for all. Every second my wife spent in Ethan's grip felt like a lifetime ticking away. The video feed blurred as I ran through every possible scenario in my mind. I forced myself to focus. Panic was a luxury I couldn't afford. Carson squeezed my shoulder, eyes wild. We can call the police. Anonymously, at least. I shook my head. If Ethan's got contacts everywhere, we can't risk it. He'll move her before anyone gets there. My fingers flew across the keyboard, scanning the video's metadata. Luck was finally on my side, a geotag. An old warehouse on the outskirts of town. Classic. I know where she is, I whispered. I'm going. Stay here. If I'm not back in 2 hours, release the evidence. Everywhere, social media, newsrooms, the works. Carson's jaw tightened. You're not going alone. I almost protested, but the look on his face left no room for argument. We armed ourselves with whatever we could find, flashlights, a rusted tire iron from Carson's trunk, pure adrenaline. The drive to the warehouse was a blur. My mind spun with images of my wife, fear twisting in my gut. The place was dark and silent, just as I'd expected. We crept through the shadows, hearts hammering in sync, each footstep echoing in the cavernous space. Then voices. Ethan's laugh, casual and cruel. Mark's smarter than I gave him credit for. But everyone breaks eventually. I motioned for Carson to stay low as I peeked around a stack of crates. There she was, tied to a chair, a single bulb swinging overhead. Ethan and 2 goons stood nearby, backs turned. Now or never. I burst from the shadows, swinging the tire iron. Chaos erupted. Shouts, fists, the crash of metal. Carson tackled one thug, and I went straight for Ethan. Years of rage surged up as we struggled, his face twisted with surprise and hatred. My wife screamed my name. I broke free, grabbed her ropes. Her hands were icy, but her eyes blazed with hope. A gunshot rang out. Everything froze. The gunshot split the air, echoing off concrete and metal. I spun, heart seizing, and saw Ethan holding the smoking pistol, aimed at Carson, who dropped to one knee, clutching his arm. Rage exploded in me. I lunged, slamming Ethan against the crates. The gun clattered to the floor. We grappled, trading blows. I thought of every humiliation, every sleepless night, every threat to my family. I didn't care about revenge anymore, just survival. Carson, bleeding but still conscious, crawled to the gun and fired a warning shot into the ceiling. The thugs scattered instantly, vanishing into the darkness. Ethan went pale, but before he could flee, I pinned him down. It's over, Ethan, I spat. You'll never hurt anyone again. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Carson must have called them as we drove here, just in case. I tied Ethan's hands with the ropes that had bound my wife. She clung to me, sobbing, her fear melting into relief as blue lights flashed through the broken windows. The next hours blurred, statements, paramedics, flashing cameras. Carson was taken to the hospital, and my wife never let go of my hand. The evidence we gathered was everywhere now, news feeds, inboxes, social media. There was no covering it up. Ethan and his network were finished. In the aftermath, I found myself standing outside the hospital, dawn breaking, sky washed clean after the storm. Carson approached, arm in a sling. He looked broken, but grateful. I never said it before, Mark. I'm sorry for everything. If you ever want your old job back. I shook my head, smiling for the first time in ages. No thanks. I'm done living in the shadows of men like Ethan. And you? He nodded, understanding. Good luck, Mark. You've earned it. As I walked away, my wife beside me, I felt lighter. Not because I'd finally beaten the villain, but because I'd found myself again, stronger, braver, whole. Sometimes, justice isn't about payback. It's about finally letting go.